Welcome to the Third Man Up podcast, your one-stop shop for the serious and not so serious side of Australian sports. Join the lads as they discuss what's going on in the world of sport and preview all of this weekend's action. Now, here are your hosts, AFL media superstar Peter Spida Everitt and the world-class amateur Brody Burrows.
The club means so much to me, and I want to make sure that I leave the game loving the game, not resenting the game, but also I want to make sure that I leave this place just with the best feelings. You know, it's a celebration of what we've been able to achieve, but more importantly, a celebration of the people I've been able to meet. You know, I came here seeking silverware, but the reality is I walk away thinking how much the journey was and how great the journey was. So I walk away incredibly happy about what we've achieved, but more importantly, the people I've met. You know,
that was, of course, Damien Hardwick, who has stepped aside as head coach of the Richmond Football Club. I'm your co-host, Brody Burrows, and with me is Peter Spida Everitt. That has shaken up the AFL industry, hasn't it, mate?
Yeah, well, we weren't all really expecting it, were we? We didn't know where it come from. They're sitting down towards the bottom end of the ladder, but they haven't had, like, on their standards, a pretty bad year. They've lost a couple of games by under a goal, which always hurts a footy club. But you got to think back just before 2017 when they won that their first kind of grand final for a long period of time. His head was on the chopping block. They said, "No, we'll rebuild, we'll back you," and he was able to build it into an unbelievable football club. And I still believe that prelim final that they played in against GWS at the MCG, when there was 99,000 there, and I reckon there was 97,000 Tiger supporters, which that win put them into the MCG. I was on the Gold Coast watching that game, and I felt the MCG from the Gold Coast just with the yellow and black. It was just... Look, he will be sadly missed. He was a very good coach. He'll go down as one of Richmond's great coaches, winning 3 flags. But, a bit of a shock, but you understand where he's coming from because the pressure on coaches is just ridiculous.
He did speak about that, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But in the press conference, he said he had a few words of advice from some players on how we should relax and spend this next time. I think Jack Rewalt said, get down to the beach, and I reckon Dusty, by the sound, suggested Ibiza. So
a big difference. The Ridnut, the big dimmer, he'll have to slap on the sunscreen if he's going down the beach for too long. But look, and you know what? Okay, does this open up the avenue for coaching next year? Take your 6 months off now, because a lot of people say, and I think this is a really good theory, and it's interesting to see what Rossi Lyon thinks as well, because it's being out of the coaching game, coming back in. For a player that you think's played 8-9 years, so your players that have established themselves as very good players, they're 9 years into their career. I wonder if it is worthwhile taking that year off, letting your body regroup, get your mental state back, and then come back and have another crack for 5 or 6 years. Yep. There might be a little bit in that as well. So is Dimmer just taking that 6 months off before he launches into another club at the end of the year? Because let's face it, there's going to be a few for him.
There definitely will be. We'll get into the weekend's action. And you got up again on the tips this week. I went for a few upsets and it ruined me.
Yeah, look, it's so hard, isn't it? I try and tip 9. I think I got 6, but some of the ones you sit there and, again, this weekend, you're going to be sitting on the fence. You believe on what you're kind of tipping and you think that's right. And then, for me, the 2 biggest ones was, Port Adelaide getting the win, which was huge. Watching that game and, it went right down to the wire, and with Grundy sitting there going, gave him the sit there, don't do that until the fat lady sung.
Especially with those Port Adelaide supporters, he would have copped an absolute ear bashing on the way off the field, wouldn't he?
And even, and the worst part, and this is, I don't know if they have it at Adelaide Oval now, but the old football park, is that if you gave the Adelaide supporters a little bit of curry, oh my God, they just lined up and you had to walk about 60 metres to the team bus and they just absolutely launched at you. And you were hoping, no, please don't be there, please don't be there. Oh no, oh shit, they're there. They're there. And then suddenly they'll launch. So Grundy, no matter where he went, even when he was walking past through the airport the next day, I reckon there would have been supporters just giving him this one.
I think Simon Goodwin might have been giving him that from now on as well. Just shut up, mate. Just don't do anything. But Friday night, we'll get straight into that game. And what a game that was. Just absolutely pissing down with rain, wasn't it? And last week, we marked a bloke out who we thought was the most underrated player in the competition. And I think the Melbourne media, as he was running around, they were saying something like this.
Who the fuck is that guy?
And Zach Butters, what a game that was. And he's underrated no longer. How good is he?
Yeah, players. And this is the impressive thing about Port Adelaide is those Butters and Rosie and these kind of guys really stepping up now. And, it just puts it, we always talk about that bottom tier. Your top line players are always going to be, you know what you're going to get each and every week. It's that those players who step up, who were probably 15th to 25 on your list last year, they make a big difference in a football club. And that's what makes your finals. If those players step up, that's what brings you finals. And they all are at Port Adelaide. So, never tear us apart. That's up and running. They will be, it doesn't matter what the rain's doing. They were there. And just what a game. What a cracking game of football.
And it's good to see Hankley. He's celebrating every win on the side of the ground like it's, like his life depends on it. And you can really see how passionate he is for that, that Port club. And, he's celebrating like a fan. He gets the two fists up and really gets into it as soon as that siren goes.
He was absolutely stoked, wasn't he? It looked like we just won the Soccer World Cup. He was just like, yes. And that's what, because let's face it, 12 months ago, he was under the pump. Even 6 weeks ago.
Six weeks ago, he was done. It was untenable.
Yeah. So, to just be able to peg back and deliver. And that's the emotional roller coaster that, Hardwick and coaches talk about. It's a tough gig and you have to celebrate the wins because there is a lot more losses than wins. So Port Adelaide, absolute tick. And they're destined for finals, absolutely top four.
Without a doubt. Now, Melbourne, it's obviously they've just been their typical Melbourne selves this year, but there was a couple of moments that really stood out to me on Friday night. And one was Max Gawn, obviously copping a bit of treatment by the Port Adelaide crew. And there was at one stage, young Ollie Lord. I absolutely love this by a young player. He's standing up, and as he's going to get up, he's pushed the arms into Maxi Gawn's back. But where's the rest of the Melbourne side? There to help out your captain, really stand up, because I guarantee if that happened to Petrarca or Oliver, Max Gawn would be flying in 100 mile an hour, saying you're not doing that to my players.
And I think that's what you talk about team football. You talk about, and unfortunately at the moment, Gawn, Petrarca and Oliver can't keep that football club running. They need all these other names to continue and try and give them something. But, all we hear about, and you look at them on paper, but, when your name is written on paper, it doesn't mean you win football games. And at the moment, they're absolutely not given what they were, 12, 24 months ago. So I think Melbourne's got to really rejig their side. I reckon it's starting to get a little bit bland, a little bit boring. A few players are, as you mentioned just then, are way too comfortable, and they've got to start testing themselves. And, when you listen to, McRae talk about Collingwood and how they're able to start, they challenge themselves at training. They challenge themselves. He goes, so I remember watching him on during the week. He asked a couple of journos, he goes, you come to my training and you tell me if these players aren't trying to get better each and every week.
Yep.
And I question if Melbourne's doing that. Your Petrarcas, your Olivers, absolutely. But those two blokes, as we said, can't win games on their own.
And it'll be interesting moving forward. Obviously, Clayton Oliver will be out for the short term with a little hamstring injury. He played on the tough little red nut, but it'll be interesting to see how they shape up over the next few weeks without Clayton Oliver, who's been in outstanding form for him.
And sometimes, as we mentioned, if you haven't got your Tex Walker, haven't got your Buddy Franklin, I know their vocal points up forward, but if you haven't got Oliver, I think that's when you put pressure, and the coaching staff put pressure on midfield, saying, you know what, people have to stand up.
Yep.
We need a bit more out of you. We need more out of Brayshaw. We need more out of these other players, because at the moment, if Oliver's out and he's our second main ball winner out of Petrarca, that's a massive hole in Melbourne.
Oh, it's huge. Well, we'll move on to this next game. And as if North Melbourne hadn't been through enough during the week, obviously with the resignation of Alistair Clarkson, they've somehow snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, haven't they?
Oh, this is... You can be so sad about football. You talk about a football god, And how does this happen? Like, you just absolutely gutted for North Melbourne. And you know the funniest thing, actually, I was in Tasmania. So I was in Tassie, and I was down there watching some local footy. And a lady had a Kangaroos beanie on, and she was absolutely stoked. 43 seconds to go. North Melbourne's got it by 3 goals.
Oh, no.
She's squealing, yelling, just going, yes. And we're right at the can bar too. So let's say we're a couple deep. And it was deep into the seniors too, and they're having a win in front of us. And she's just all excited. And I said, look, I know it's Kangaroos and I know it's Sydney. Can you just refresh the screen?
Yeah.
And she refreshed her screen.
Oh, no.
And it came up with Sydney in front. It was absolutely devastating. I was wetting myself. I said, I'm sorry I asked you. I said I should have sent you home just hoping that you remember.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, she was filthy. But what a crap way. Like, these interchanges, like, I'm not a massive fan of, 75 rotations. Who cares if they rotate 255 times? You know what? You've still got to get to the bench and you've still got to get back out there. So who cares? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, 100% on that one. And Sydney, they stood up, and obviously Buddy Franklin has just been under a fair bit of pressure, but when the game was there to be won, he didn't win it with the miraculous goals that he usually does. He actually provided that physical presence that we know and love from Buddy. The tackling, the bumping, Buddy probably 5 or 6 years ago when he was at the top of his game, that's what he did.
Yeah, well, you always know if he was going near the ball and he didn't get it, you'd always take out someone with him.
Yep.
That was the theory behind Buddy. So it was good to see the tackling, as you say, all those little pressure elements. But there's a lot of players in Sydney that you didn't see. Where's Papley and where's all these other players? You sit there and go, hang on, 22 players going to be out there. Your oldest bloke, yeah, he's your key, but he can't be doing all this. Sam Reid, there's so many others there that, there's a big question mark over Sydney at the moment. This weekend's going to be absolutely huge for them.
It's going to be huge. And I'll just touch on the Horne-Francis deal. Obviously, North traded away Jason Horne-Francis, but they look to have got 2 rippers. George Wardlaw had a terrific first game for North Melbourne, and Harry Sheasel continues on his excellent year. So I think both sides can walk away with that. Both stoked. They've both won the trade there, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But the big question is somebody like Sheasel, do you stay at North Melbourne for that long period of time?
Yeah.
If you're not going to play finals, and, I can look at a lot of great players at the Gold Coast Suns, it's a really tough fine line. You think of some of the players that have left for the Gold Coast Suns and gone on to win premierships. Like, if Tommy Lynch was still at the Gold Coast Suns, will he be the Tommy Lynch we know?
No.
You know what I mean? Like that,
Charlie Dixon
name,
as well.
Charlie Dixon, O'Meara. There's you can keep going through a array of them, but rank it at the moment. But at the moment, you sit there and go, well, imagine Sheasel at Collingwood.
Yeah.
He'd be a superstar, even at these bigger clubs at Carlton, which will take him tomorrow.
Ashcroft at Brisbane, what he's doing up there.
Yeah, so there's it will be interesting. I don't think they'll ever get rid of him. If they were smart, they'd do what Adelaide did, make him captain.
Yeah, early.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, speaking of the Crows, Western Bulldogs gave the Crows a bit of a lesson down there in Ballarat last weekend, and for me, I think this was actually lost at the selection table. No Thilthorpe, and the Crows decided to rest Tex. I know it's a long year, and he's got an aging body, but without Tex, without Thilthorpe, the Bulldogs were just dominant, weren't they? Liam Jones was nearly best on ground for him.
Yeah, but I understand the Tex. I understand the Tex one, only because it's a long way. You got to get to Melbourne, then you get to Ballarat. It's -4 degrees. The wind's howling 45k south, and it's just an open ground where for forwards and big forwards, it's always a tough day. Yep. It's always the ball swinging around, and your small forwards, it's going to hit the ground. So that's where you want them. So yeah, I understand the text, but then you sit there and go, okay, well, it was a big mistake because you still need forwards to kick goals. So, but look, Adelaide have been up for a long time. You just need that, that 5% mental edge off, and the Bulldogs, can go to these grounds and play really, really well. So for me, it wasn't a big surprise, and Adelaide had been up for a long period of time. It was kind of that, let's get over this game and let's then concentrate on the week after.
Yeah, and Bulldogs just quietly putting together a very good run here. But look at their midfield, and they've got so many guys that can rotate through there, inside, outside. you know, you look at Bont, obviously, you look at Libber, McRae, Bailey Smith, who played a ripper on the weekend. It's good to see him back in good form. And then you got Caleb Daniel. You know, you got so many blokes who can run through and also distribute the ball so well to their forwards.
And that's the thing about them is that, they are so great through the midfield. You've got so many options. They've got a solid back six that pretty much stay standard. Yep. They rotate a lot through the midfield, and a couple of them can go forward and kick goals. So we know how dangerous they are at forward line stoppages. But don't forget their big man English. He's probably having one of the best big man year. You know, the All Australian this year is going to be a real tough one when you look at big men. And for me, English just gets to the right spots. He's big enough around the stoppages. He gives them first use. He follows up, and he can go forward and kick goals. So for me, he's a complete player for them as well.
I think I looked at another stat. So he's averaging over 30 hit-outs per game, but he's also averaging over 20 possessions, which shows how good he is around the ground and how hard he's working his opposition ruckman as well.
And that's the key. These big men these days are working. Their work rate out, and again, you look at some of the Maxi Gorn's probably been the prime mover over the last 4 or 5 years. But, there's a few catching up to him. But the main thing of a ruckman is giving him that first use. It doesn't matter where it is. And you know what I like about Tommy English? He really does use his skill as a ruckman. He doesn't grab it out of the ruck a lot of the time and try and, just get that cheap kick and get it forward like a few others. He actually sits here and goes, I'm going to do my craft, and that's hit out midfields, follow up, block, maybe get a possession and continue on.
Yeah. And this next game, as a Freo supporter, I'm on top of the world now.
Oh, way to go. Ever since they've brought out that bloody Fremantle beer, they've been on fire. So the Purple Haze.
the Purple Hazy IPA by Pirate Life down there. But it was Fremantle brought back that slingshot game that we know and love from last year. And when they're up and running like that, they can compete with any side. And I think this week's game will be very interesting against Melbourne. But, you know, the Dockers midfield of Brayshaw, Sarong, and even O'Meara now, and obviously Fife starting to come back through it. They just dominated the Cats. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they were able to. And that's the thing. We saw that slingshot game come with Richmond a couple of weeks ago, which then gave them the win. And no doubt, Freo watched that and said, this is what we're going to get back to. And, sometimes, when you don't play that brand of football for a little while, a couple of weeks, you start going back into your shell. And we saw that with Fremantle. Yeah. At the start of the year, they're pretty easy to beat. Now they've got that confidence. They've got that run. They've got that belief. They know what they need to do. Put the ball out in front. We're going to run onto it. Continue. Who cares if there's no one there? Put it out. We will run, and we're going to run in numbers. And when we do run, we're running fast and we're running hard. And one thing Freo are very, very quick. So, look, they're the team to watch at the moment. It's going to be there's going to be some really hard challenges to pick this weekend. But again, as you mentioned, just their midfield and their run is superb.
Yeah, I was watching the broadcast of this one on Saturday night, and I heard something really funny. He said, it's great to see Andrew Brayshaw wind back the clock a bit. I thought, he's not that old, is he? I know he's, it feels like he's been around a while. He's 23. So,
no way.
I know Him and Strong have done, some pretty good things, in the last 3 or 4 years. But winding back the clock at 23, I think is a bit of an overstatement.
Yeah, I think it'd be, for us to wind back the clock to, maybe 97 or 2002, maybe. But if you're winding the clock back to 2021, not a real big clock to wind, I wouldn't have thought.
It's just like a West Australian time difference, I think. But
exactly right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, he's actually playing back. I mean, Brayshaw's playing back to his, his time difference, which is.
But we had the Lions in the Q Clash, just too good for the Gold Coast. I mean, they competed for probably 2.5 quarters, and then the Lions just said, "No, we've got too many avenues for goals." And I think I compare the Lions to, like a boxer. You put the gloves down for 3 seconds, and you get 3 punches in the face, and you're on the canvas.
Oh, gee, did you see that one during the week? That guy who got knocked out in Boston.
Australian. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that was Maloney.
Maloney. He was knocked from Melbourne to Perth. It was that was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen. But same with this. I thought Brisbane were the better team. You look at them on paper, and as you say, Brisbane has just got quality across the field. It's just the Gold Coast Suns at the moment. It's great to see Kingy back getting a little bit of touches. They do need Tuke Miller hopefully back really, really soon. So, Noah Anderson, not his best game, but you can't leave it up to them all the time. But as you mentioned, when you've got Lockie Neal, Cameron, Danaher,
Josh Dunkley as well.
Josh Dunkley. McCluggage, I rate very, very highly, and I have for a couple of years. So yeah, they've got some good players, Brisbane.
Now, this one here, dream time at the G. Essendon 71 defeated Richmond 70. Before we get into the game, just want to touch on the song at halftime. I'm not sure if you saw that. The Michael Long singing the song, and had Kevin Sheedy up there with him, and I think Sheeds forgot a fair bit of the words and might have been lip syncing a little bit. So
he would have been lip syncing like I saw Betty Bill at the 21st Century Dance Club one year when she fell off stage and the song kept going. And we're going, how's this happening? Nearly knocked out on the ground. She could still sing.
That's talent. That's talent.
That is talent.
But no, Zach Merritt, he's talked about really good performance by Zach Butters, and Zach Merritt, just produced an absolute amazing performance to drag the Dons over the line. And looked at one stat, and it was about, Richmond's in the last 12 games that have been decided by 6 points or less either side. Richmond have lost 12, all 12 of their past 12 close games.
Really? And then you look at Dimmer and go, why do you want to get, I know that's hard, that's heart attack action there, but at the same time, at least they're in the contest.
Yeah.
Like people go, oh, Richmond are sitting at this part of the ladder, they're terrible. They're not that bad. If you look at that one stat, there's been plenty of sides that have just missed. Like Carlton last year missed the finals, but they lost half a dozen games under a goal. That's why they thought they were going to be so good. The Gold Coast Suns the year before, I think they lost a lot. 4 or 5, within a kick as well. So they're so important to get those ones where there's a kick. But I'm taking nothing away from the Bombers. They're continuing to show up. They're continuing to do the right things, and they get those little wins through hard work. So, they're going to be a good side for the next couple of years to continue to watch. They can add a few more players, absolutely. But, Stringer and these blokes have got it he just gets so excited. But, for me, as we spoke about last week, there should be only 2 celebrated rounds each and every year, and that's Anzac Day and Indigenous round. I thought it was fantastic.
Yep, no, so did I. And I put a same game multi on, and I announced it last week for everyone to hear. I said, Shai Bolton, you got one more chance. And it got up.
Did it? Yes.
My 8-legger got up. And last time we did this, for those of you who didn't listen last week, I had Shai Bolton, anytime goal scorer, and he kicked 0 goals 5. This weekend, I put the mocker on him and said, you've got to kick 2 goals or more. And he did it. I said 2 goals and 20 plus. I think he got 2 goals and 30 odds. So
did he? Yeah. You little ripper. That's what we love when they finally come up your way. I'll tell you which one disappointed me a little later on in my bloody multi. It just, I'll tell you now. It was Mitch. No, I'll tell you the game's coming up.
Yeah, righto. Now, this next game we'll probably skip over pretty quickly. Don't want to talk about it or bang on too much about it. Hawthorn 142 defeated West Coast 26. I actually watched this whole game because I couldn't believe what I was watching. Yeah, I just had to see how bad the Eagles actually are, because I haven't watched many of their games, and this was really, really hard to watch. It's a VFL side. Is
it time for other clubs will look at their top liners, Kelly, these guys, all these guys, Shuey, these blokes who could probably get another year or 2 at other clubs and absolutely offer something to other clubs? Is it time now that West Coast Eagles start really negotiating and looking at moving these players on?
They have to. They don't have a choice. Otherwise, there's going to be more pain to come. It's either you rip the Band-Aid off, similar to what Hawthorn have done this year, get a good bunch of 5 or 6 youngsters in, or you keep these loyal guys on who have not going to beat around the bush, they're destroying your club currently by sitting on the sidelines and having millions of dollars on the sidelines. When you could rip that off, maybe get a couple of first rounders in.
If they had no injuries, where would they sit? Would they still be too top heavy?
12th to 15th, I'd say.
Yeah. Because Hawthorn, look, take nothing away from Hawthorn. They were great. They have got some really good young talent, and you see what Sam Mitchell's trying to build, and they've had really good passages against top teams as well. So, Hawthorn's never really an easy beat. Yep, they had a couple of big losses, but you can have that with a younger team. But they've had a couple of great wins as well.
Yeah. No, we'll move on from that game. And Carlton and Collingwood, yep, you're right. Quarter time, I was cooking the barbecue with a beer in hand.
And what I hated here was same thing. Another multi, and it was just pick your own. But it was Collingwood to win every quarter by -3.5 points. Yeah. And what I hate is when they get the first quarter and they're winning by 30.
Yeah.
Jesus, they've got to win every other quarter by at least 3 or 4 points. Nah, 2 points, 1 point, minus 4 points. It's like, come on. Like, you've just won the most important quarter of the game, the first one, like, blew them out of the park. And then you just take it easy. So, yeah, but look, Collingwood were good, weren't they? You look at Darcy Moore down back, one of his primo games. You start then going through, Myercheck, and you go through the middle, and Dacos boys are still going well. One comes on, one comes off, pushing and shoving. They just cannot do a thing wrong at the moment, the Pies. And Carlton, I reckon, I don't know, there might be a little bit more pain for Carlton. They're the two tools up forward. If they can't get it, who else is going to kick for them? Cripps isn't really doing what he has been known to do, but they all need support.
Yeah, there's one fella who I absolutely love watching for Collingwood, and he sniffs out a scrap before it even happens, and that's Braden Maynard.
Oh yeah,
he could be in the forward lines, and he's a back pocketer, back flanker. Be in the forward lines, and there's a little bit of a wrestle, and then you could blink, and then Braden Maynard's in there. He's got someone in a headlock. He would have to be, if you could pick anyone in the AFL to play for your side, you would just love to be alongside Bruzzy Maynard.
Yeah, well, if you got a haircut like that, you got to be able to fight. Yeah. That is a Collingwood dude, down and down. So you've got to be able to fight, and he does. But I love those blokes who just can sniff out. You get, they're walking off at quarter time or half time, and the little push and a shove then comes to a jump and grab, and then it comes to a bit of a wrestle, and all the commentators get excited.
And BT and Jimmy Brayshaw are losing their minds over it. But well done to Collingwood. They just keep on being Collingwood. I think that's all you can say about them at the moment. They just keep on winning on the field and off the field with all the things that they're doing. So this next game, St Kilda and GWS. So I tipped GWS, and I actually changed it last minute to the Saints, just based on Max King, and he looked better than his brother. I hate to say it when he come back. He's come back and looks like he hasn't had any rust.
Well, the thing about it is that some of these sides that are playing finals, and the Saints have been in really good positions, they haven't had to rush him back.
Yeah.
They could have an extra week or two. So the Gold Coast Suns, they needed a tall forward. They needed some vocal power. Casbolt and Child weren't really doing it for them. So they needed something. But for me, GWS are still a good team. They've been still impressive. They really challenged teams as well. This was this was anybody's game. Like in the third, the Saints ended up just getting on top. And as you say, like Crouch and Sinclair with his do was just
he was outstanding, wasn't he? The
outstanding. Well, the only one that let me down here for my multi, as you say, 8-9 leg multi. Which one lets me down? All I want, Mitch Owens, right? To get 15 touches. When he's on 13, halfway through the third quarter, so he's going to get to 15 easy. I'm lining up. I'm in there. I'm ready to. I've already spent.
You're ready there to catch it out.
And then he decides to wear somebody's knee as his earring.
Oh, that wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good. And as soon as you saw him get carried off, so a couple of weeks in a row, I've been done by the super sub, and just cost me my multi. So. Yeah, it wasn't good. You'll miss this week, but good thing is that all signs are good with him. Yeah,
definitely. And young Philippou really stood up after that too, and he was that marking target across half forward for the Saints. And we'll move in. We've done all the last week's games, and we'll move into a segment we brought in last week called Overreaction or Spot On. And I'll kick us off. Darcy Moore is the most valuable player in the competition, not the best, but the most valuable.
Well, that's a great question. And I can't say it's overrated at all, but not yet. No, I think he'll be close, but I reckon a couple of your midfielders, Sarong and, I reckon Toby Green, to be honest, still probably the most valuable player for a team. Nick Dacos will be close. Oliver's another one. But if I had to choose one, I'd probably go Toby Green at the moment. He's the barometer for what GWS is.
Good call. I'd probably be going even Stringer for Essendon as well. I don't know. If Stringer goes down, I think Essendon may struggle to kick a winning score, I reckon.
Yep.
Now, This next one, Brisbane's current VFL side would beat West Coast. So currently playing in Brisbane's VFL side,
Yes.
Jared Lyons, Darcy Fort, Reece Matheson, Nakia Cockatoo, Dev Robertson, Darcy Gardner, and Noah Answorth.
Wow.
Would they beat West Coast side right now?
Gee, it's always good, isn't it? I don't think so. They're not. Like the twos footy, and we said this right at one of our real early podcasts,
Yep.
is remember Melbourne at the start of the year. They're A graders. Their AFL played the Div 2.
Yeah.
And beat them by 100 and something points. So, look, I think, I doubt it. I doubt it. But, that's a good question because that's a good twos team.
It is. And I think that team that West Coast put up on the weekend, and even Adam Simpson mentioned that it's, they probably had 6 or 7 blokes that weren't ready to play AFL yet, that they're having to play every week. So
yeah,
they're nearly putting up a waffle side, and you can see what an AFL side really did to them.
Yeah. It's fascinating, especially, I'd love to compare your waffles to your your samples and to your, the Victorian one as well, because it's all football, but I'd love to see the standard of it. Who would win? And this might come back a little later on in the Spida bite.
Yeah. Now, this next one was a statement made this time last year, and I think after his performance on the weekend, I don't think he's going to be saying it again.
You can keep him to 22.
22.
Put me out there tonight, Kingy.
Yeah.
And I'll keep him down to 25.
Oh, come on. You're half the size of this man. He eats bigger meals than you.
So that was Kane Corns talking last year about he reckons he'd be able to go out there and tag Christian Petrarca. Now, he played on the weekend in country footy, 6 possessions, 119-point loss. And
wow.
Apparently looked like a Ressie's footballer trying to play A-grade footy.
Yeah.
Is that an overreaction by Kane Corns?
Oh, overreaction. Jesus. The only thing you pass when you go to the toilet guaranteed is corn. And I reckon that's what Petrarca would be passing at around about half time if he played on Kane Corns. Even at Kane Corns' highest level of football, even when he was fit, we could rewind the clock and Petrarca would still carve him up. Corns is pretty happy with himself, but 6 touches in a local brand of football and a 120-point loss. Cornsy, stick to the microphone, I reckon.
And that was with the Carlton draft. So obviously these teams got to choose, which player they wanted. And
oh no,
the club before him actually chose David Mundy to come down and play for him. And David Mundy last weekend got 30 possessions and kicked 6 goals from the centre. And then this week, this club's managed to get Kane Corns, who got 6 possessions, and they lost by 119 points. So
you know what? If you are from that football club that Kane Corns played for, write to Carlton Draft and complain. I would be. That's an absolute joke. How can you give me this? It's like, no, you can't do that, Cornsy. You've got and he's getting paid to go there and play. Like, give him something.
Exactly. So if you're listening to that local side, Spider's just put his hand up to come and play a game later in the season.
Oh, no. I was down in Tassie over the weekend and, I loved it. I saw these 14 and 15-year-old kids who were built like, they looked like Gumby. They were skinny. There was nothing of them playing against 30, 40-year-old guys with a bit of a Carlton Draft beer gut on them, well, a big one, and trying to take them down. It was hilarious. But I'm not in any state at the moment to be able to get a kick around. But I'd probably get more than 6.
And now this one here really caught our eye. We'll just play this too.
Great goal. Oh, it's fascinating conversation happening there between the coach and the captain. Really interesting. That
Animated too.
Yeah, it was from both parties.
What were they saying, Spider?
Well, this is interesting. This was Michael Voss and Patrick Cripps on the sideline, on the boundary. Michael Voss was pointing. He was animated. He had his finger out and he was looking down one end. He pointed to the other end. Cripps was looking at him, giving him a little bit of feedback, saying, oh, you know what? And I actually went around Australia to all the different states, because I wanted to see what they all thought. And I tried to get people that lip read.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tried to get some lip readers in and these are so I got in contact with 5. I sent them the audio and the vision, and this is what they come back with. So the first one, He said, Voss was there and he was all over. He said, "You're the best player out there, Cripps. So pull your finger in and do something. You've done stuff all ever since you come on this ground and this year."
Yep, well put.
Yeah, I thought, okay, he's a bit stiff. But anyway, Cripps, the second guy, come back and he said, "If you blokes play as half as good as I did, we can still win this. We can absolutely still win this. Don't you agree?" And Cripps says, yeah. Okay, the third bloke said, "If Darcy Moore takes one more bloody mark in the forward line, I don't give a shit. I'm bringing back Sticks Kernahan." And then the next one, he goes, "You have a look at the vision. You see him animated. He's gone, why Collingwood? Like, play shit against Richmond or Melbourne or Geelong, but bloody Collingwood. I don't give a shit about anyone else, but just not Collingwood." And the last one, he's got onto Cripps, and you can see it. And this is the guy from Melbourne, the lip reader. He's gone, "Boys, don't you know? Fucking Dimmer's quitting on Tuesday. So by Wednesday, it's going to be me or Dimmer. Who do you want to coach you next year? Boys, I need your lip right now. Dimmer's out."
Oh, that is fantastic. That's some of your best work all year, Spide. Well done.
Oh, no, it's just what the lip readers come back with.
Well, I think we could do nearly a lip reading segment all year. There's plenty of stuff on the sidelines which doesn't get broadcast. But now that wasn't even your spider bite.
No.
We'll get into that.
It's that time of the week where we find out what's been grinding the big fella's gears. It's time for Spider Bites.
Rightio, one thing that shits me the most than anything else this time of year. Now, you guys wouldn't get it as big in Melbourne, South Australia, in WA, in Tasmania. Okay, you're going to this year because round one or game one is in Adelaide. Because Adelaide's got you've had live, you've had gather round, Adelaide is the place to be. And I don't know how they brought you, but you've brought the State of Origin NRL game one. Now, I'm not a massive fan of NRL. Like, it doesn't get me up and get me excited. I've been to the State of Origin. Yeah, it's good to watch. Is it AFL? Absolutely not. It's nothing like AFL. AFL's got the atmosphere. We've got the crowd. They've got, it's just a different kind of a game and different atmosphere. But one thing they do is their players pride themselves on State of Origin.
Yeah.
You have made NRL if you play State of Origin.
Yeah.
That is the pinnacle of their game. You can play in a premiership, but if you've played State of Origin, that takes you to a next level. So if you played a State of Origin for New South Wales or Queensland, it is the pinnacle. And they're in camp at the moment ready for game one. I hate the fact that it is such a big event. It is such mate v mate, state v state, hate v hate. They hate each other. Mm-hmm. And in the AFL, there's two states that absolutely hate each other. And it's Victoria versus South Australia.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see State of Origin somehow brought back the way the NRL is. If we had our top line players in the AFL, in the AFL for Victoria and South Australia, we did it properly, had a 2-week break, we played 1 week, then all had a week off. However, I don't know. There's got to be a scenario out there where you can just bring the absolute passion, the hatred, the mateship between these two states, Victoria and South Australia. You'll see it in Adelaide when the NRL get there, how big this game is.
Oh, yeah.
It's massive in Queensland, massive in New South Wales. And I was fortunate enough to play a couple of games for Victoria. I loved it. Playing with other players from other clubs, not players, playing with superstars.
Yeah.
Other clubs, going into Adelaide, being absolutely hated, walking off with a win, still being absolutely hated. But it was just that, I don't know, and Teddy Whitten was the mastermind behind State of Origin in AFL, and it would just be so good to be able to bring it back. The NRL pump a lot of money in it. The players get 20, 25 grand a game just to play, to show their respects and get out there. So it's big money. But it pulls in massive money as well. The TV rights and how it's done, for me, I'd love to see State of Origin brought back. I don't know how, but I get jealous every time this time of the year because the NRL do it so well. And I hate the NRL to do something better than us, which gets me more.
It does. And can you imagine someone like Braden Maynard lining up for Victoria and getting in a scrap with one of his Collingwood teammates and then having to rock up to train together on the Monday?
Well, funny you say that because we played a Mickey Mouse one. It was Victoria versus the Allies. Yeah. And we were playing against, the Allies. And Matty Young was in the side for the Allies. And he said, be careful of the first bounce. They're going to run off the sidelines and clean you up. So at least...
He gave you a bit of a warning.
It gave me a bit of a warning. But I started forward, so it didn't happen.
Oh, that's all right then. But plenty going on in the AFL, mate, with that. And I agree 100%, obviously, with the State of Origin. And back in the 90s, the feeling of hatred that you got for Victoria and the feeling that Victorians, the hatred towards South Australia, when Port Adelaide and Crow supporters can sit next to each other and actually support a team, something like that would be amazing. I mean, you could do it now still. The walk over the bridge as a South Australian, would be absolutely unreal. And my wife's father played a fair few years of State of Origin for South Australia, and he remembers playing against Victoria one day, and Victoria had the forward line of Dunstall, Lockett, and Gary Ablett Senior.
Oh yeah.
And but he said another time he was out injured, and they were sitting with all the other the players who didn't make it, and all the families, and they were up in the right next to the coach's box and had a roof over their head. And he mentioned that I think this was the game that Modra just really turned the game on its head, and the South Australia actually beat Victoria, and Modric kicked a goal I think in the last minute or two, and he's jumped up in the air and he's gone to fist the air, and bang, straight into the roof. His hand's gone.
Yeah, and look, and they have bets. The premiers have bets on it. Light up the certain parts of the city with the opposition, and they've got to walk down Main Street of Adelaide with
Victoria scarf.
And a jersey on. And I still remember Dale Lewis was in our team when we played over there one year, and I was rooming with him. And after the game, we all went out, and even before we left and this is what I love about it too, is the fact that after the game, you all go up, you have a beer with all the sponsors and all the corporates. It's fantastic. You just get to meet everyone, and it's just a celebration, as you say. It's two states really passionate about their footy. But even at that, we're only 20 minutes finished into the game, and Dale Lewis said, "Look, you're in my room." He goes, "You going back to the room?" I said, "Oh yeah, I don't know when." He goes, "That's right." He goes, "I won't get back tonight." He goes, "Just bring my footy, bring my bag and everything to the airport, and I'll meet you there." So we get off the bus, and outside the Adelaide airport, there's Louis just sitting on the bench waiting for the bus to arrive.
Probably straight out of Red Square or somewhere down Hindley Street.
Absolutely. He'd been nowhere else.
Nah, grabbed a year off for the trip back, and it's all right. But we'll move into the Brownlow medal tracker now, and this is really shaping up because our leader, Clayton Oliver, 17 votes, he has gone down with a hamstring injury, Spida.
Yeah, really interesting, this one. And, it's going to be tough. You'll only be out for one or two, and then, Melbourne's got a bye coming up as well. So you got to kind of look at this time of the year with a few players with a few niggly injuries, rest them up and get that bye into them, and then come back cherry ripe. So who's on second if he's leading? And Nick Dacos still around there?
So Nick Dacos is still in second spot. So Clayton Oliver, 17 votes, but he's drifted out to $17 with this injury. So if I was anyone, $17 for the current leader of the of the Brownlow medal. It's only going to be out
of the Brody Brownlow medal.
No, it's a Brownlow medal. I've had it checked up with the authorities. So at $17. So Nick Dacos and Jordan Dawson both on 14 votes. Nick Dacos $3, Jordan Dawson $10. The Bont right behind him on 13 votes at $5. Now the two Port stars are just creeping up quietly.
Yeah.
Zach Butters and Connor Rozee both on 13 votes. So Zach Butters has been smashed this week into Brownlow medal betting. He's at 11 and Rozee 34.
And deserve it. You think of all those teams that you've spoken about, except for Adelaide, are all top four teams. Like they're the ones at the moment. They're winning a lot of games. The Bulldogs, the Bont, I still think that's worth a couple of bucks, but nice bet on Oliver, absolutely worthwhile. Just if he's drifted a little bit, he's going to come back and at least get 2 or 3 best on grounds before the end of the year. If that can put him up to 24, 25, what wins a Brownlow? Anywhere between 28 and 32?
Yeah. Oh, depends.
So,
I think Lockie Neal won it one year with 30. Oh, I think Ollie Wines won it with the mid-30s one year, but you have years where you win it on early 20s too. So.
Yeah. So, no, good betting. I love it at the moment. But, for me, the top 4 teams, those teams that are winning, but still there's a few dark horses in there that I reckon can that come in, but Oliver's the one.
And just on that, Zach Merritt, I also had on 13 votes, but he's ineligible due to his suspension earlier in the year. So he's,
It's a tough one with suspension. You saw Nick Dacos on the weekend, just give him a little jab. Now, it wasn't worth it, but then you saw another punch Toby Green through that got a penalty for.
Yeah.
That was a joke as well. So, but it just, the football world loves it, don't they? They gave him 24 hours of talking until they cleared him and, suspended Brownlow betting until the outcome of this. And it was a little tap.
It was, I think, probably run by all the bookmakers. Just get a few people nervous and then jump on someone else while you can, who's no chance of winning. But not sure if you've seen, but the boxing megastar Tyson Fury, he's touched down in Australia, and he's going to be there at the big fight this weekend, the Parker Django fight on Wednesday night on main event. And on the undercard, Cam Mooney and Tommy Bellchambers are going to have a scrap.
Look, I think, a lot of the undercards, a lot of sporting people are going to. And look, I don't mind it sometimes, but I reckon our boxing at the moment is at a premium high.
Oh, yeah.
You think of some of the boxers in Australia, UFC's really helped that. Tim Tszyu, Nikita Tszyu, Maloney on the weekend, you might have got knocked out. But why are we going to put some of these Mickey Mouse fighters on when we've got some absolute jets who have dedicated a lot of their life to boxing? Well, we've got some unbelievable women boxers at the moment.
We do.
Why don't we put these guys and girls on the undercards who have actually been training for that? If the AFL want to do a Mickey Mouse boxing bout, go and do it. But don't put it on a card where we're passionate about our boxing, because unless you're training up and you want to do it like a Barry Hall, and in the NRL, it was, Gallen, Sonny Bill Williams. If you want to take that path, go and do it. But if you're going out there to absolutely just bring a bit of audio back to the bounce or whatever footy show you do, so you can sit there and go, hee, how funny are we? You're disrespecting everybody who's trained hard for that sport.
Well put. I think I agree 100% on that. And see so many of these fighters, you look at their record, they've had 60, 70 amateur fights, and maybe the 10 to 15 pro fights, and they're not even getting on these cards as well.
That's
and,
right.
And I think that's the hardest thing to see is you go in there and you're going to have someone there, like Tyson Fury, who's probably the best pound for pound in the world other than Usyk at the moment. And he's going to be there. And is that something you really want to be showing to the world champion who's looking at bringing a big fight to Australia as well?
Yeah. And let's be honest, they're throwing a couple of custard tarts with lightweighted gloves, headgear on. Hardly anything's going to hurt you. Please get in the ring with a proper boxer and see if you can actually really do it. And if you can sustain the energy of somebody who's turned it into a profession rather than taking the piss out of them and not showing them any respect at all. But I've got a question talking about boxing. I remember Mike Tyson. He punched a guy last year on an aeroplane.
Yep.
What would you rather do? Would you rather get nipple crippled by Grant Hackett on an aeroplane or punched by Mike Tyson?
I think you'd go to sleep pretty quick with Mike Tyson. You'd sleep pretty well for the rest of the flight, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you'd be totally embarrassed if Grant Hackett
I reckon so.
crippled you. Punch me, Mike. Punch me.
Oh, jeez. But nah, it's Mike Tyson could come out now, and I reckon he would, with both eyes closed, and at the same time be able to take out Moons and Bellchambers in the space of about 2 minutes.
You try and think about when Tyson was up in his game in 97, 98, just going when that bell rung and you walked out to meet Mike Tyson. Like, it would have been frightening.
Yeah, and I remember there was one fella who come out and talked a big game, and then he was out, I think, within 30 or 40 seconds. I want to move on to something little bit serious here, and it's something that's it's been driving me insane for a while. And I think this person, I'm not going to name who they are, but
Okay.
I think by the end of it, everyone's going to know who it is. So, this obviously Alistair Clarkson, he stepped away from the game, and for his own health and this ongoing investigation that's happening with North Melbourne, and one particular journalist, I think it's been a witch hunt by him, and 28th of September last year came out and wrote that Clarkson won't coach at North Melbourne next year. Got proven wrong, and ever since then has, to be honest, has had it out for Alistair Clarkson. And round 2 this year, Alistair Clarkson and North Melbourne had a terrific win over Fremantle in Western Australia. Clarko was on the sidelines. He was high-fiving his players. Yeah. He was getting them up, really up and about, getting into the holding the ball. He was so happy. And then Monday came around on Footy Classified, and this one journalist, if we're going to call him that, ripped into him about it. Said, grow up. Don't act like this. Don't show your emotions. And now look at what's happened here. He's had so much going on his plate. He's got such a young list. It was apparently last year they were just like the North Melbourne side were brought down, and they were physically and mentally destroyed. They were training so hard, and they got a really rough. They were roughly coached. There wasn't much positivity. So Clarkson's come in, try to be positive with this young side, and then he gets ripped into about it. All this, external pressure, and now look what's happened.
Yeah. Well, you think about those coaches that have tried to make a positive influence. Dimmer turned it around by making jokes and having a little bit of fun. We saw Richmond Grand Final day laughing. You think, what? How does that happen? You saw Ken Hinkley over the weekend. Now Dimmer's, decided to step away from football like Clarko did. You got to think, you haven't just got the weight of the playing side. You've got the whole football club. You've got fans. You've got the responsibility of everyone on your shoulders. And with Clarko at the moment, not only that, the investigation that's going on behind the scenes. Look, some journos absolutely don't have an apps. They believe they know what it's like, but they have absolutely no idea. They try and believe, we know what it'd be like to coach. We know what it'd be like to play. And it is a very difficult situation to try and make comment on and be around if you've never been in that situation and at that level to understand what scrutiny can go on and how hard certain situations can make it for the individual.
I think you can even look at it now with the Ken Hinkley drama. And when teams are going bad, it's the coach's fault, 100%. The coach isn't doing this, the coach isn't doing that. And now that, I'll take Port Adelaide for an example, now that Port are winning. No, it's not Ken Hinkley that's doing this. It's Josh Carr up in the box. It's the players that are doing it. It's not Ken Hinkley. When Port lose, it's Hinkley's fault at the moment. And when they win, it's Josh Carr up in the coach's box, or it's the players, on the ground.
Yeah.
Coaches, if you're going to, rip into coaches, fair enough. But you got to applaud them when they do turn it around and when they do, do a good job.
Well, it's surprising that you see a journalist is not well balanced. Amazing.
We'll move on because,
Great point, though. It's tough for Clarko right now.
It is. And put it this way, if Fags and Clarko are acquitted of this, if there's not an apology, because this person is not known for making apologies or admitting that they're wrong.
Should he be sacked?
Yep.
Yeah, man, if you get it that wrong, outside of a weatherman who can get every day wrong, doesn't matter, you should be sacked.
Yeah.
You're a shit journo.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
And if you're going to sit there and attack personally, someone's, they're sitting there, they're trying their best. If you're going to sit there and attack their personality as well, I think, get rid of you. But I'm moving on before I'll get too frustrated.
Yeah.
We'll move into Friday night's games anyway, Spida. And this is going to be...
This journo's never done anything wrong, so we're very, very fortunate. No. Anyway, Friday night's game.
Yeah, Friday night's game. Sydney Swans versus Carlton. Now, both sides. Where are they at?
I've circled both teams here. I circled the winner. I had Carlton. Now I've gone Sydney. To be honest, you're just waiting for Sydney to run. You're waiting for them to turn up. And at the SCG, you'd expect them to do so. I even went to look at the weather just to see how I think they're going to go. It's going to be a little bit wet during the day, and then it's going to be dry. So, the small ground, kind of you lose your centre half forward. So it's going to be interesting how they play with Curnow and Mackay really close together. Mackay. I'm going to go with Sydney. I'm going to give them one more chance. Surely they've got to turn up. Surely they've got enough in the tank to say, what we've gone through just isn't acceptable. We need players to turn up. Surely they will.
One stat I'll ask you, I reckon this would have to be at least 10 to 15 years. When was the last time Sydney Swans lost 3 straight games at the SCG?
Oh, gee, I would have thought, well, they played finals 14. So that would have been, I would have think, 05, they were still going all right.
Yeah.
I would have said probably
Nearly 20 years.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, nearly 20 years. So they've lost their past 2 at the SCG, one to the Giants and one to the Dockers. Tell you what, I can't see the Swans losing 3, mate. I'm going to have to tip Sydney.
Yeah, I'm going with Sydney only because of that. But you know what? It's going to be a tough one. You still wouldn't be surprised. You sit there, as you tip your 90, and you go, I knew I should have gone that. I had it circled, but I'm going to go with Sydney.
Yep. St Kilda and Hawthorn. Now, the Saints, I think, you're going to have to get over the line in this one.
They will, but as we mentioned, when you look at Lewis and Sicily and Newcombe, Hawks have got a pretty good side, but the Saints again got some young players. Their older crew, Crouch and Steele and these guys, but the big forward, when you're king up forward, I reckon they've got a lot to go to. So the Saints will bounce back.
They will. Now this next game,
bounce back. They'll get 2 in a row.
Yeah, they will. Now, this next game, I think, is just about the game of the round. Melbourne versus Fremantle at the MCG. No Clayton Oliver, and Fremantle's midfield is absolutely firing. So we might see the 2 Brayshaw brothers have to line up on each other here.
Look, again, when you start looking at it like this, I'll probably only go Melbourne because it's in Melbourne.
Yep.
Freo beat Melbourne this game last year.
When they were 10 and zip.
Yeah, and I still remember I was sitting at the MCG, and it was great to watch. I thought, gee, they outran them, they outsmarted them. Melbourne cannot fall for that 2 in a row. Freo are up and about, as you say. They have got their confidence, and they can still win at the MCG. But Melbourne probably a bit too solid down back, a little bit more down back, and than Geelong had. So I'm going to stick with Melbourne.
Yep. Now Geelong and GWS. Where are the Cats at?
Well, they are missing their few.
They are.
But this is again at GBH. So being in Geelong, give Geelong a huge advantage. Again, as we say, like Green Kelly, I thought Jesse Hogan's having a cracking.
He is.
He's one player that you cannot beat him in a one-on-one contest. When he's leading at that football and he gets his jukes up, he takes some unbelievable grabs. And sometimes he's right up past the wing, taking him. His work rate, a lot different to what it was a few years ago. So, Look, he's been a real good highlight to be able to watch. But for me, the Cats at home, really hard to tip against.
Yeah, I can't see Geelong losing a game in Geelong, no matter who's playing. They seem like they're a 7 or 8 goal better side when they play at home.
Well, we know one thing, they'll never play Collingwood there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Eddie will lose his shit.
Imagine Collingwood having to drive or sit in a car for an hour down the freeway. Oh, stop it. Don't do that.
No, and imagine Port Adelaide wearing the prison bars.
Yeah.
Gold Coast Suns versus Western Bulldogs.
Well, this is in Darwin, and the Suns play well in Darwin.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there's a side that you don't want to play, that's the Dogs, because they play a great brand of football. Wet weather, we saw what they were able to do in Ballarat last weekend. And I reckon the Dogs are on song at the moment.
Yeah.
And they're in a really good spot. I want to wish Lukey Beveridge, his old man, and everyone, he's a bit crook at the moment. Johnny Beveridge, one of the great men of football. It's his birthday the other day. So happy birthday to Johnny Beveridge. He was a Jet, got so many great players down to the St Kilda Footy Club and did some great recruiting for plenty of years. But for me, I reckon the Bulldogs will get over the line. I just think Suns are okay. Big king up forward, as we mentioned, they are good to have them back, but so many avenues for goal for the Bulldogs will cover the Suns.
Yeah. I think you can't tip against the Bulldogs. I think they've won 5 straight now, or something like that. So West Coast versus Essendon. you simply can't even take a look at West Coast at the moment, and Essendon are going very well.
Yep, what it is, it's a nice opportunity for Sheed and Yo and Kelly and these blokes just to put a couple of dollars on themselves and say, look at me, I've still got a few more years in me. So any club out there, they should have a new sponsor just on the back. Free to good home. Like the RSPCA. Let's put them out for the West Coast Eagles. But, who I thought the Bombers' best man was last week? I thought Redmond. Redmond down back. Like the way he read and how many marks he took was just magnificent. He times the ball beautifully, gets a lot of the footy, absolute jet. So for me, the Bombers.
Yeah, he turns defense into attack so quickly.
Yeah.
For the Bombers, he'll intercept and then he's a really good distributor, like by foot, and he takes those kicks, those 50-50 kicks that switches them up back into the middle. He really sets them up, and I think he's quietly putting together maybe an All-Australian year there for the Bombers too.
Yeah, and I think next week on the Spida Bite, there might be I might do a thing on hairdos. The man buns, like Darcy Moore. There's a few haircuts going around at the moment that
they're all playing well though. So
yeah, I know we can't bag them. So trust me, if you listen to this, you play AFL, get a shit hairdo, and you start getting a kick.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you'll be brought up. Now, this one here is going to be a lot of feeling one way or another, because I think both sides have had a fair bit to do with him. Richmond versus Port Adelaide. Obviously, no Dimmer Hardwick, but Port Adelaide, obviously, Hardwick premiership player for, and has a lot of love for Port Adelaide. But Richmond, MCG, this is going to be a packed house. A big farewell for him, you'd imagine.
You'd love to think so. You'd love to see. And, he went out on his own terms and he said, you know what, I don't want to, this is what I want to do. And he has won 3 flags. So let's get out there, celebrate an absolute icon of the game, somebody who's going to go down as probably the greatest, Richmond coach of all time. So I think he will. I think you'll see they will bring it up. And I think a lot of the players, especially the older players like Dusty and, depending on Rewalt and Lynch and all them fit into the game over the weekend, will want to show respect and they'll want to do the best they can. So for that, I'm still picking Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
I think Port Adelaide will be able to withhold that. I know what Richmond's able to deliver, but Port Adelaide, Ken Hinkley will say, you know what, this is what they're going to give. If we can win this game, and it will be finals-like atmosphere.
I think this is great for Port.
Yeah, it will be huge.
Yep, and like you said, it's going to be like finals-like atmosphere. And Port don't play many games at the MCG this year, but this year it's going to be a full house, and it's going to be that finals pressure because they're not going to want to, let down Dimmer Hardwick. It's going to be on. The crowd's going to be loud. That Richmond faithful. They're never quiet. They're never quiet at all.
No.
I'm going to tip Richmond.
Yeah.
This one.
Look, it's a toss of a coin.
Dusty Martin will play his best game in 3 or 4 years because he's a loyal man, Dusty, and I reckon he'll wind back the clock to his Brownlow years on Saturday night.
There you go.
Oh, Sunday, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, look, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't put it past. I might even go and have a look at this. I'm in Melbourne on Sunday. It could be something great to watch.
Yeah, I think it will. Now, this next one might not be the best to watch, but Collingwood versus North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Pies just continue on, don't they?
Well, it's going to be sad for North Melbourne. Mm-hmm. To be honest, if Collingwood run and they do what they're supposed to do and they don't let the foot off, not like a couple of other teams, if they actually play to their full ability, I reckon they could win this they'll win over 100 points.
Yeah. And
I know it sounds like stupid and it sounds a lot, but it's Collingwood. Best team in the comp, best defenders in the comp. The midfield's amazing. Cox is just being able to, just keep improving. Like, I don't know. I can't see anything under 100 points.
Nah, and just on that, it's the big fella's 100th game this week. So what a story to come here and barely be able to kick a football, to be someone who stands up in the big moments for Collingwood. So well done to Mason Cox this weekend. And what he's brought to the game, I think, has just been amazing too.
Oh, just his cockiness, just that USA style, just arrogance, but at the same time, you know what? You've got to be able to back it up when you're not going that well. And he accepts it. Players give him feedback when he misses. But you know what? One of the best set shots for goal you'll see. There's a big man like that, you think shit could go everywhere. But not Coxie. Coxie just delivers every time.
And this last one here, Adelaide Crows versus Brisbane Lions. Similar to Geelong, the Crows currently are struggling away from home, but when they're at Adelaide Oval, they look a completely different side, but they're going to have to bring their best to compete against Brisbane, aren't they?
Yeah, whoever can tip 9 this weekend will be an absolute marvel because it is a tough one. Because, yeah, you're right, Adelaide Oval, massive crowd. Lions aren't convinced when they're away from home. Both of these sides struggle to travel. So when you got Brisbane Lions, and all you have to be, and we spoke about it earlier, all you have to be is that 2 or 5% off. And if you're 5% off, the opposition will start hitting it hard. But for me, I reckon last week would be a big shock for Adelaide. I reckon a few teams would have found out a little bit about them. It's a long season. They've got a lot of young kids. Brisbane are a little bit harder through the body. They'll know they only need to get 1 or 2 more wins, hit the bye, get ourselves refreshed. Let's get these wins before the bye. So I'm going to stick with the Lions in Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions too. And is there a scarier proposition in football as a defender than a Joe Danaher who's fit and full of confidence? Like when he's flying, I think he's one of the best forwards in the comp.
Absolutely. And when you've got the forward line, the midfielders delivering the ball, and it doesn't matter if it's your Lockie Neals, you got Charlie Cameron who keeps it alive. But, when you got Rich coming through the middle and he can hit a target from 55 out with Danaher. But you know what I love about it? In the air, on the ground, he's been really good the last couple of weeks. So ever since he come back, he's been flying.
He has been. And my big call for the weekend.
All right, here we go.
There's going to be a draw.
Oh, really?
Yep. Only reason I thought that was I was actually changing my daughter's nappy this morning, kicked my toe on the draw, and it just popped into my head. So
that's fair enough too. That's fair enough.
So I'm going for a draw this weekend. What's yours, mate? Any?
I wasn't changing any nappies. This been there, done that. Happy to have that totally past my life. But yep, you know what I reckon it is?
What?
The 2 big kings. Maxie and Ben King to kick 4 each.
Oh, Charles. King Charles.
Big King Charles, both of them, to kick 4 apiece. So that's what I reckon. They've both been able to do it. They've both been on the scoreboard. They're both in good nick, and they're both playing teams that they should be able to kick 4 goals against.
Righto. And to finish off, we'll do some quick questions without notice, mate.
Absolutely.
So I'll kick
it off.
Right, you're home by yourself. You can't be bothered whipping up something proper. What are you eating?
Dim Sims.
Dim Sims.
Straight out. I have a packet of dim sims in the oven each and every day. If I'm cooking anything, it's half a dozen, maybe 8 dim sims, and bang, bang, they go down like grapes. You've got to eat them with fresh chili and soy sauce. So that's me.
Yep. So mine is what we had for lunch today. Bit of toast, tomato. We're done.
That's it.
Yeah, toast, tomato, and if I'm feeling fancy, maybe a bit of cheese on top.
Oh, that's going fancy. A la carte. All right. Should the AFL introduce the seconds or the female footy before every game?
Yes, but they have to get a national competition, a national reserves competition first. As soon as they do that, I think the second should open up every week. It'd be so easy for clubs. They could travel as a squad. It'll just make it really easy.
You don't even reckon that, in South Australia, you play your match of the round before the AFL?
Nah, I reckon here in the Sandful, the actual Sandful sides have such a strong following. Like your Sturts, your Glenelgs, they have your Norwoods, they have such a strong and loyal following. So, without that Adelaide and Port Adelaide, I actually think that'll bring the Sandful back to its former glory, to be honest.
Okay.
Yep.
Another one?
Yep. Best advice ever given, either footy or life?
Oh, for me?
Yep.
We had a Ray McLean meeting once, and it was about teams, and when I was voted one of the most unprofessional, lazy individuals in football, and they said I've got to turn it around, probably the best advice I'd got. From that day, I o'clock every morning, and I was never late to another training session. So, one of those, team sessions where you get an honesty test. That was probably the best advice I got when I was told that, I was lazy, I was too much of an individual, and I wasn't respected.
Yeah. No, mine was a few years ago. I had a few troubles, mental health, and had a bit of anxiety, and just got told that you can't control things that aren't in your control, which is one thing that I struggled with. If I wasn't, I try to control everything from external to internal, and I just overdid it. And then just manage yourself. Everything else will fall into line.
Just control the.
Yep. So
I got one for you just to finish up.
Yep.
If you could give right now one team 8 points, who would it be? And if you could take 8 points off a team, who would it be? For me, I'd love to give the Suns 8 points. So they've got a chance of playing finals.
Mm-hmm.
They're open. They're able to play. They've got the confidence going into the bye that, you know what? We're on song. We're able to play finals. The other one, I'd take 8 points. And I know, don't bash me, Adelaide. I'd take them off Adelaide.
Oh.
Just a couple of players. There's a couple of players just getting ahead of themselves, I reckon. Just a bit too much of a strut too early. So, leave me out. Just leave me out of Adelaide. I'm not convinced with them at the moment. So, take 8 off Adelaide, give 8 to the Suns.
Nah, fair call. Mine, there's no point taking them off Collingwood because that'll just get them back straight away. So, I'd be, I know as a Dockers fan, I want to say the Dockers, but I'd nearly be going the Suns as well. We want to see the Suns successful as an AFL community, I think. And I'd be giving the 8 to the Suns because I think if they get a roll on, they can beat anyone. If the Suns get a roll on and actually have confidence in their young team, they're good enough to do it. But I just think they're lacking in a bit of belief at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the 8 I'll be taking off would be Geelong.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the Cats outside the 8 and having to win those last few games as well to get in. Imagine the storylines. Cats finish 8th and you finish 5th. Would you want to play Geelong?
No.
Yeah.
No. And then they go on to win a premiership and we all say they're too old and too slow.
Too good.
And they get dressed up as old people again and they're in a retirement village. And, good call. Absolutely. I was tossing up. Yeah, great one.
Nah, and that's all we got time for this week, guys. Tune in next week. Cheers.
This has been the Third Man Up podcast. To hear more, make sure you follow and subscribe or find us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter @Australia Sports.